It was supposed to be just another weekend, one of those late-night get-togethers where everyone laughs too loud, the music plays until the neighbors complain, and someone always ends up sleeping on the couch. I never thought that night would flip my entire world upside down. I remember the way he looked at me across the room, tired eyes, the kind of smile that hides something deeper, and that bottle in his hand. We'd known each other for years. Friends. Nothing more. Or at least, that's what I always believed. When he stumbled into the kitchen around midnight, slurring his words and laughing at nothing in particular, I didn't think much of it. Everyone else had either left or passed out in some corner of the apartment. He leaned against the counter, looked at me, and said, "I'm just drunk, that's all." I nodded, half smiling, brushing it off like I had every other time he made weird little comments when he'd had too much to drink. But this time felt different. Maybe it was the quiet. Maybe it was the way he said it, not funny, not teasing, just tired and honest. We talked for hours that night. About life, regret, loneliness, things people usually keep buried. He said he was just drunk, but parts of what he said felt real. Like truth slipping out when the walls come down. And somewhere in the mess of that emotional chaos, something happened. Something I can't take back. I didn't even realize how serious it was until weeks later. I thought I was just stressed. Maybe run down from work or not eating right. But then came the moment in the bathroom, me staring at that little plus sign, my heart racing, my hands trembling. That's when everything sank in. I was pregnant. And all I could hear in my head was his voice saying, "I'm just drunk." I didn't know what to do. Who to tell? How to even begin to process what this meant for me, for him, for both of us. Should I even tell him? Would he care? Would he even remember what happened that night the same way I do? Or would it all just be a blur for him, just another mistake in a long list of nights he tries to forget? What scared me most wasn't the pregnancy. It was the silence. The fear that maybe this meant more to me than it ever would to him. That maybe I was carrying something that would change my life forever while he moved on without even realizing it. This isn't a story about blame. It's about the unexpected. The way one night, one moment, can unravel everything you thought you knew. It's about decisions, consequences, and figuring out who you really are when everything falls apart. And right now, I'm still trying to find my way. Because telling him? That's a moment I haven't faced yet. But it's coming. And when it does, nothing will ever be the same again. I kept replaying that night over and over in my head, like a film stuck on loop. I tried to remember every word, every touch, every look, but no matter how many times I went back, I couldn't figure out where the line had blurred. We were friends, nothing more. He had never crossed that line before. So why that night? Why me? And why did it feel like I was the only one still carrying it? The days after finding out I was pregnant felt like walking through fog. I went to work, smiled when people talked to me, answered texts like everything was fine. But inside, I was spiraling. I hadn't even told my best friend yet. Not because I didn't trust her, but because saying it out loud would make it real. And I wasn't ready for that. He, on the other hand, was going on with life like usual, posting stories, hanging out with mutual friends, joking in the group chat like nothing ever happened. And maybe for him, nothing really did. Maybe he was just drunk. Maybe he didn't even remember how the night ended. That thought haunted me more than anything. What made it even harder was that we weren't in a relationship. We had never been. Which meant people would ask questions. Judge. Assume. And deep down, I was scared they'd blame me. Or worse, think I did this on purpose. The world isn't always kind to women in my situation. Even though I didn't do anything wrong, the shame crept in quietly, without warning. I was left with a decision I never thought I'd have to make. And with every passing day, the weight of silence between us grew heavier. Because I still hadn't told him. And I didn't know how he would react, or if he'd even believe me. I started avoiding him, even though we ran in the same circle of friends. I skipped hangouts, left group chats on read, made excuses every time someone asked me to come out. I told myself I just needed space. Time to figure things out. But in reality, I was scared. Scared of seeing his face. Scared of what I might say. Or worse, what I wouldn't be able to hide. But fate didn't care about my timing. One afternoon, I walked into a coffee shop near my apartment to clear my head, and there he was. Sitting at the corner table, laughing with someone I didn't recognize. I froze. He looked up, caught my eye, and smiled like everything was normal. Like we hadn't changed each other's lives in one silent, irreversible moment. I couldn't breathe. I grabbed my coffee and left without saying a word. That night, I finally broke down and told my best friend, Alina. I didn't even finish the sentence before she wrapped me in a hug. "You're not alone," she said. "But you have to talk to him." And I knew she was right. But part of me couldn't stop wondering, what if he thinks I'm lying? What if he turns it all around and says it never happened? We were both adults. We didn't plan it. But we also didn't talk about what we were doing. That's what made it all so blurry. Meanwhile, my body was already changing. I felt tired all the time. Nauseous in the mornings. Every symptom made the truth harder to ignore. And still, I hadn't told him. The silence between us wasn't just silence anymore. It was becoming a wall. One that neither of us knew how to climb. And time, it was running out. 2 more weeks passed, and the pressure inside me felt like it was about to burst. I couldn't sleep. My appetite was gone. Every time my phone buzzed, I'd check, half expecting a message from him, like somehow he knew. But nothing came. He was still living his life, untouched by the storm growing quietly in mine. Alina kept asking when I'd tell him. She even offered to come with me. But I said no. This was something I had to do myself. I just didn't know how. What words do you use to change someone's life forever? And what if he didn't want it to change? One evening, I got a call from a mutual friend about a small gathering at someone's place, just a chill night, nothing crazy. And for some reason, I felt like I had to go. Like maybe the universe was done giving me signs and was now shoving me into the moment. I told Alina I'd go. She looked at me like she knew this was it. I walked in, and there he was, same laugh, same casual energy, completely unaware. My heart was pounding. I tried to act normal, but he noticed. He came over, smiled, leaned against the kitchen counter, just like that night. "You good? Haven't seen you around." I froze. The music around us faded. His voice echoed in my head, mixing with that memory I couldn't shake. "I'm just drunk." I looked at him, searching for any hint that he remembered. But his face gave nothing away. And just when I opened my mouth to say something, someone called his name from across the room. A girl. She walked over, slipped her arm around him like it was the most natural thing in the world. My stomach dropped. I hadn't even told him yet. She stood beside him like she belonged there, laughing at something he whispered in her ear. I just stood there, numb. The words I had finally built up the courage to say disappeared from my mouth. My fingers tightened around the glass in my hand, heart thudding so loud I was sure someone could hear it. He looked over at me again, this time distracted, and gave a half smile before turning his attention back to her. I didn't even know her name, but in that moment, it felt like she had taken everything I hadn't even had the chance to claim. I turned to leave, not wanting to create a scene. I made it halfway down the stairs when I heard footsteps behind me. It was him. "Hey, wait, where are you going?" he asked, his voice low and confused. I didn't turn around. "I'm just tired," I mumbled, hoping he'd let it go. But he didn't. He followed. "You've been weird for weeks." What's going on? His tone had shifted now, concerned, maybe even irritated. I stopped at the bottom of the stairs and slowly faced him. You really don't remember, do you? I asked quietly. He frowned. Remember what? My heart broke a little more in that moment. He genuinely looked lost. Before I could answer, we both heard it, her voice from above. Babe? You coming? And just like that, another piece of me cracked. He turned back toward the stairwell, then to me, waiting. Expecting me to explain something I didn't know how to say. I opened my mouth again, ready to just say it. But then he said something that caught me completely off guard. Was it that night? The party? Did I do something? There was fear in his voice now. Real fear. And something else, guilt. It was the first time I saw it in his eyes. I nodded slowly, the words still stuck in my throat. And then he said, because I need to tell you something too. Something I should have said a long time ago. That night wasn't what it looked like. My breath caught. What did he mean? The air between us shifted. Suddenly, I wasn't the only one hiding something. And maybe. I didn't know the full story after all. He looked straight at me, eyes serious now, no trace of the carefree guy from earlier. That night, he said, voice lower, I wasn't just drunk. I was trying to forget something. My heart pounded as he continued. A few hours before the party, I found out my ex had gotten engaged. The one I thought I'd marry. And I didn't know how to deal with it. I came to the party already a mess, then I saw you. And you were just there, like you always are. Safe. Familiar. I didn't know what to say. My chest tightened. So you used me to forget her? No, he said quickly. That's not what I mean. I mean, something shifted that night. I realized I had feelings for you. But I was too messed up to handle it right. I remember more than you think. I just didn't know how to face you afterward without ruining everything. I stared at him, a storm of emotions building up. Well, it's ruined now. I'm pregnant. He froze. Like the words punched him in the gut. For a second, I thought he might walk away. But then he just whispered, Are you sure it's mine? My jaw clenched. Do you think I'd be here if it wasn't? He nodded, slowly. Okay. I just needed to ask. I needed to know where we stand. For a long time, we stood in silence. Everything between us laid bare. I thought that was it, the truth, finally out, the weight off my chest. But then he dropped the real shock. She's not my girlfriend, he said, glancing toward the stairs. She's my sister. Half-sister. She just moved into town last week. That's what I needed to talk to you about tonight. I blinked. What? I was going to tell you everything, he said. About how I feel. About that night. About how I haven't stopped thinking about you since. Tears burned behind my eyes. All this time, I'd been carrying shame and fear, thinking I was alone. But I wasn't. Still, the truth was out now. And everything had changed. And just as I thought we'd finally reached some ground, he paused, eyes wide as his phone buzzed. He checked it, face turning pale. He looked up at me slowly. We need to talk, but not here. Something's happened. And it's bigger than both of us. My heart dropped as I looked at him. The air was heavy again, but in a different way now. What do you mean something's happened? I asked quietly. He didn't answer right away. He just showed me his phone. A message was glowing on the screen from his mom, Call me. It's about Dad. Urgent. We stood in the hallway, both caught in a moment we didn't expect, everything happening at once. He looked overwhelmed, torn between two different worlds that were suddenly crashing into each other. I placed a hand gently on his arm. Go, I said. Whatever it is, just go take care of it. We'll talk after. He nodded, eyes searching mine like he wanted to say more but didn't know how. Then he turned and left. I stood alone, stunned by the truth that had just unraveled. He wasn't the guy I thought he was more complicated, more human. I had spent weeks consumed by fear, by what-ifs, by shame. But now I realized how much of that I had carried on my own without giving him the chance to show up. The next day, he called. His father had been hospitalized, something sudden but thankfully not life-threatening. And after that call, we finally sat down. In a quiet park, just the two of us. No drama. No confusion. Just truth. We talked for hours, about the night it happened, about the baby, about the future. We didn't pretend to have all the answers. But we agreed on one thing, we were in this together now. Not because we had to be. But because we chose to be. Months later, I still remember how broken I felt in those early days. But sometimes, life's most painful moments bring unexpected clarity. That one night I kept replaying, the one that left me pregnant and scared ended up being the start of something real. It forced honesty, growth, and a kind of connection I never saw coming. This wasn't the life I planned. But maybe, just maybe, it's the one I was meant to live. And for anyone who's ever found themselves in the middle of chaos, remember this, sometimes the scariest chapters lead to the most meaningful ones.